Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today we're going to be once again talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is about 24 hours into its official release. Now, talking about this game in particular is like stepping into a minefield. There's a lot of very strong opinions about this game and the studio behind it, but today we're going to look at how things have played out in the 24 hours since its release, and one thing is very clear: a lot of people are enjoying this game. You can see right now, random afternoon, it's not even the weekend yet, this game is sitting at 173,000 in-game players and also has a 90+% approval rating. This game is off to a very, very good start, and you can also see they have officially crossed the 1 million copies sold mark. Not 1 million players, this is 1 million units. This isn't Veilguard, right? They're not trying to deceive you with player numbers versus copies sold. They're saying copies sold. Now, this isn't too surprising, right? I think you're a bit delusional if you thought the related controversies behind this game would actually prevent it from selling a lot of copies. I think it was always destined to sell a lot of copies. The game itself looks very, very appealing. A lot of people are enjoying it, and this is something that a lot of people saw coming. Now, the question is, it's not whether or not the controversies would make this game flop, it's whether or not this would limit some of the potential success by turning away some people for unnecessary reasons or through misunderstandings or things like that. So one thing that's going on right now, there seems to be a lot of censorship on Steam. We already saw the code of conduct introduced by Playon, the community manager responsible for Warhorse. But now we're seeing Steam and Valve taking down some posts that are negatively reviewing this game. And I think this one in particular that's gotten a lot of attention that was removed for its content is representative of a lot of the controversy and issues people have with this game that have not died out since it was officially released. So this is the deleted post with, at the time, almost 1,700 people finding it a helpful review. It says this: 8 years ago, Warhorse Studio said, same-sex romance, no, you'll play as Henry. And he already does have a background story in which he is not bi or homosexual. Now, after they've been bought by woke investors, they changed the writing of Henry to turn him bisexual. Additionally, Daniel Vavra, the co-founder of the studio, tweeted, would you please explain to me what's racist about telling the truth? There were no black people in medieval Bohemia, period. Now he added a black character into the game. In the meantime, they were acquired by Embracer Group, who command the implementation of DEI on their website. It is each game studio's responsibility to implement diversity and inclusion, end quote. Additionally, an investor of Embracer said that he was specifically pushing for them to make the game more gay. Doesn't even need to drag this out. The devs expose themselves. Forcing the same political agenda into every game nowadays is not tolerable, even if it's more or less subtle and doesn't make the game bad. Buying it will affirm such practices that are undermining and harmful for the industry. I'll be sailing through the high seas on this one. See you there. And this post, like I said, was deleted. Now, a lot of people will disagree with the message of this, but clearly some people do resonate with it. But I think it highlights two issues that caused some controversy in the lead up to this game's release and have continued since the release, and that is the inclusion of a character named Musa, who was a foreigner who went to Bohemia, and also, and more importantly, I think for the relevant conversation, the fact that in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Henry is now bisexual if you choose so. It's an optional route in the game, and that was something that was leaked a few weeks ago, and I just don't think it was handled the best, and some people saw that and said, this game is woke, I'm not buying it. Now, in my previous videos, I said I think having this bisexual optional route for Henry does not in and of itself make the game woke, but feel free to disagree with that. I don't think it's unreasonable to disagree with that. I think a lot of people have like woke fatigue right now, right? So they have an agenda being hammered on them by the video game industry over and over and over again, and they're at a point now where they're seeing red, they're seeing woke, and anything they associate with wokeness immediately makes them dismiss the entire game as woke. So they see a bisexual route in the game that's optional. They say, nope, I've seen this before. This game is probably woke. Now, whether they're right or not, that's up for debate, but that's where a lot of people are coming from, in my opinion. But I think the more largely supported criticism of this whole route is that it seems to break established lore, especially involving the character Henry. Now, we see the actual scene itself. Now that the game's live, we know exactly what happens in this optional romance arc here, and it actually involves Henry and his friend Hans, which causes even more controversy. You can see right here, IGN picking this up and trying to min-max their visibility here by releasing this right about the time this game released. So they basically were like, yeah, people are going to try to speed run the gay sex in this game, so let's try to release it so people can find this guide when they first start playing this game. Well, you can see the reception to this is not very great. As you can see, 1,200 likes versus 4,900 dislikes, and I think that's for two reasons. Number one, people are clowning on IGN for making an entire dedicated video to this, basically highlighting this small snippet, a small optional snippet of the game as like this huge cornerstone of what this game is all about. But also, I think people are just not really interested in this. Some people don't want to see this stuff at all, but I also think some people are just angry because it seems to contradict the established lore and what people expected out of both of these characters. Because number one, Hans has always been depicted as a womanizer. There's an entire DLC dedicated to him womanizing, right? And then you have Henry, which of course causes some more issues when you have official statements from the Warhorse Studios YouTube account from years back responding to questions about the first game, where someone was saying basically, okay, if I have these characteristics that don't line up with Henry's in the game, how's that going to play out? Where Warhorse Studios replies by saying, same-sex romance? No. You will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith, and he already does have a background story in which he is not bi or homosexual. But then they say down here, so those players who are not straight will be forced to romance a woman. Where Warhorse Studios replies saying, nobody will force you to do anything, but you will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith, and yes, he is straight. How do you reconcile this statement with what's happening in the sequel of this game? It's a clear 180. And they're allowed to do that, but they really sat on this as long as they could. They didn't really ever address this departure from it. This is an official statement from their company. So there's definitely some teeth to this, and they did a big 180 on this. He is now bi if you want him to in this next game. And a lot of people had issue with this inconsistency, and I don't think that is an unreasonable thing to criticize in this regard here. But we would see Daniel Vavra, the creator of this game and the CEO of Warhorse Studios, reply to people pointing this out, where he says, I don't want your money, and I have a strong suspicion it would be your parents' money anyways. If you're familiar with his tweets, it's not surprising to see him clapping back, but this is something he's been doing to dozens and dozens and dozens of tweets over the past 24 hours as his game is now officially live that he's worked on for years. Here's another one, where someone basically says, is this all necessary? Referring to what I believe is the IGN video itself. Like, was it necessary to make an entire dedicated video to the romance arc here in the game? Where Vavra responds by saying, don't buy the game. We have seen this statement before, and it's just something that doesn't rub people the right way. And I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. I mean, just look at the response to this. 67 likes and 128 comments that are almost exclusively negative. How is this helping you sell more copies of your game? Because one thing is very clear. I may criticize his approach to social media, but one thing is undeniable. Him and his team are incredibly talented people. They clearly care very much about their game. They are a stickler for detail. They put a lot of heart and soul into their games. No one can deny that, right? But that is also something that serves to another point. If you care so much about this game and its success and how it impacts your team and everyone around you, ask yourself the simple question, how does this help that? How does that help advance the success of the game? Does this help you sell more copies? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't be tweeting it in the first 24 hours of the game's release. At this point, it's basically like this. Just take the victory lap. That's one thing that I guess he has an issue with. And I understand some of his hostilities towards people on Twitter. I deal with some level of that as well. You're constantly getting barraged by idiots on the internet. You want to clap back at them. right? I get it. But sometimes when you're in the release of your game, it's doing extremely well. Maybe just take the victory lap and take what you're getting right now, because it's odd to see more clapback tweets than tweets about the game that sold over 1 million copies already. It just seems like a waste of time and effort. And this is something that relates to another recent controversy where you can see this headline from That Park Place. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 director Daniel Vavra attacks critical review as Steam reportedly hides negative reactions to the game. And we already saw this latter part, but this is a reference to some negative reviews of the game, which overall the game is very well rated. In fact, you see some of these news outlets that back on the original game's release were shitting all over Kingdom Come Deliverance, and they were saying it's a bigoted game and it's terrible and all these things, and they've come around and now given it very positive reviews. However, one did not. And as Vavra points out here, a trusted news source, mission accomplished. We no longer have a 90% Metacritic score. Be proud of your excellent journalistic standards. And you can see this 50 from Games Hub. I believe, by the way, their score right now is 88 as a result of this. But here's the thing. I agree. Games Hub, absolute trash, just like the majority of these journalists. But is this really worth going out and saying this when you already have an overall very high Metacritic score? But also, if these people are such trash, then why do you need their approval, right? I know it sucks to have a negative review like this where clearly I think there was something spiteful going on here, but it's not worth your energy right now. That's the thing here. Like, a lot of these tweets, you can boil it down to, does he have the right to say this? Of course he does. Is it understandable he would want to respond to these people and these journalists and these reviews? Absolutely. But is it a good idea and the best investment of your energy right now? Probably not. We also see how this kind of relates to my situation. I've said I'm personally not going to purchase this game because of this tweet right here, where I was very excited to purchase this game, but out of respect for myself, I'm not going to get called a grifter in a video he's referencing that I uploaded, where you can see he didn't even watch the video. The ad bar here is still loading up with the thumbnail, so it shows that he hasn't even clicked through the video yet, and he saw the title and I guess misunderstood it and called me a grifter. I'm not trying to reopen this, I'm just trying to give some context here because we have some information that clarifies what he's saying here. So he had an issue with the part of my title where I say there was mass pre-order refunds, which was based on my own observations. A lot of people from my own observations were claiming that they're going to cancel their pre-orders over two different controversies that we already mentioned, with the whole Musa thing as well as the optional romance scene. And I, in that video, said I think the reaction to that, the negative reaction, is overblown in many cases, and some people are spreading misinformation and other things like that. I largely defended Vavra in this game, but he claims here that the pre-orders haven't dropped because of the backlash. I mean, he says they don't drop at all right here. This was back about a month ago. But yesterday, responding to someone talking about the Musa and the gay scenes, he responds by saying this. Also, we had like 500 refunds because of the controversy, the horror, massive exodus. So he confirms that there was 500 refunds as a result of those two controversies I talked about in my video. So there were refunds. And I think 500 refunds of pre-orders is a significant number. I mean, that's tens of thousands of dollars worth of refunds. Is that not important to anyone involved here? And I think that's also telling because those are pre-orders. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the people who are naive enough to pre-order a digital copy of a video game, right? There's plenty of other people, I'm sure, who are going to buy this on release or potentially were going to and saw some of this stuff going down and said, nope, no thanks. So this number is actually probably a little bit bigger and more representative of a bigger group of people who had an issue because of these controversies, whether fair or unfair. I just think that's the reality of the situation. And also I find this odd because, again, like it's been like a month since that video came out, and you can see him referring to this phrase massive exodus. He used that in a reply to me talking about this, saying, I think you got this wrong, dude. What's going on? And he says, don't use phrases like massive exodus, which I didn't use in the thumbnail or in the video at all. So the fact he's still using this language while confirming that there were a lot of refunds is crazy. And again, like, why is this happening? Why are you doing this now on the day of your game's release? And I think this relates to an issue, again, with PR here and getting entangled in issues that just aren't necessary. So you can see this article that was released by PC Gamer just 2 days ago, where the PR manager over at Warhorse made this statement saying this: Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's developer is fed up of being dragged into the culture war. It seems like someone is always trying to brand us somehow, and we are just trying to make cool video games. So yeah, that if that's the concern, then why do you have so much fighting on Twitter and engaging in the culture war? I'm sorry, people like Vavra, they are actively engaging in a culture war. They might think it's stupid, but they're engaging with it. And I think I'm going to show you an example where I think he's in the right, and I think what we're going to see is funny, but it's engaging in the culture war. And I think if the developers hate it so much, then this sort of behavior is counteracting that. It goes against it. So you can see this individual who's saying that this game is trying to be subversive and woke, and it promotes DEI, and is lying to gamers along the way. And then they have a whole thread breaking it down. They actually got hit with a community note saying the situation is part of a one optional quest in the game that is hundreds of hours long. It is a topic completely out of context. And then you see Vavra respond with what appears to be a hearing on request for domestic violence targeted towards this individual who denies it. A lot of people believe this. I don't know. I don't really know any detail behind this, but it seems a lot of people think it's a big dunk. But at the same time, as he's engaging with this on the day the game released, it's giving tweets like this even more attention. It did not have this much attention until he responded. Like, you're giving these people exactly what they want. They want you to respond. And even though you're getting the slam dunk, it's still exposing people to a thread that is negative about your game. And here's another one where he would make another tweet about this individual, showing that this person who's a defender of Christian values against appearances of those evil homosexuals in games, sharing some spicy, furry, gay asses. These anti-woke warriors are even more funny than good old social justice ones. Did I just make a name for them? Could we call them AWWs? Which, this post is funny. You know, seeing someone who's trying to, virtue signal about this stuff, getting exposed for tweets like this, it's funny. But again, you're engaging in the culture war. You're engaging, directly engaging this stuff. Regardless of where you fall on the spectrum here, you're still engaging with it, which goes against what their PR manager was just saying 2 days ago. Again, this is an example of a funny clapback, but does it help you sell more copies of this game and advance the goals of your company? And again, they would respond again to this individual who would say this game is collapsing and people are mass refunding and dropping like a rock and stuff like that because the player count went down. But of course, as Vavra points out correctly, it spiked back up because people went to bed. Duh. Anyone could have seen that coming. But is this person worth your time? And this is coming from someone who's had plenty of experience responding to stuff that probably wasn't necessary. I get it. Okay, people are annoying on the internet, but I just don't know if this is worth the energy of someone like Vavra when they're making these just clearly stupid statements, or at least intentionally inflammatory, trying to get responses. I just don't think this is all worth it. And you can feel free to disagree with me. I'm not one of those people who think everything I said in this video is gospel. Please disagree with me. That is totally fine. But I think what I'm saying isn't too insane, that their energy is better spent focusing on the massive success of this game. And I think it's just a better way to approach everything. Just ignore these issues that clearly a lot of people in your own studio don't want to see right now. And I don't think it's helping sell more copies. And it's not a matter of this stuff would make the game flop. Any reasonable person knew that wasn't going to happen. But it was more of a matter of, are you losing out on 500 pre-orders because you mishandled some controversy that could have been doused much quicker if there was actually an actual direct and swift statement on the matter? That's the sort of things that I think people have some legitimate reasons to criticize. And overall, again, it's just a small mark on a very successful game. But you can still point those things out, and it's just an interesting conversation, one I know a lot of people feel very strongly about. So that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.